You're listening to episode 1010 of the Father Bills podcast. Welcome back and Happy New Year, everyone. It is still Christmas. In fact, this episode is the homily given by Deacon Brett Edmonson entitled Will What God Wills, given on the solemnity of the Epiphany of the Lord 2026.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So fair warning for you all. I just want you to know I wrote this while listening to the college football playoffs in the background. So I'm not really sure what you're going to get at the end. By the way, do you know how many SEC players it takes to change a light bulb? Five. But they each get 3 credits. Yes. Now, to be fair, they claim that it is the toughest light bulb in all the NCAA. So just be aware of that, yeah. Let's talk about King Herod for a minute here. In the New Testament, believe it or not, there are actually 6 King Herods, so it can be a bit confusing. The King Herod that most of us are familiar with is the one who arrests and then later beheads John the Baptist. That's not the Herod we have today. That's actually, that Herod is Herod Antipas. The Herod that we have today is named Herod the Great, and he is Antipas's father. So Herod Antipas, he was kind of a lightweight. Herod the Great was anything but a lightweight. He was rather formidable. He was a talented administrator. He was a shrewd politician. He was a master builder. So in his time, he was able to bring peace and prosperity to Palestine when nobody else could do that. He was the builder of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, which was often called the 8th wonder of the ancient world. He could be surprisingly generous. During a famine in 25 BC, he opened up the royal granaries to feed his people. And when that wasn't enough, he even melted down his own gold plate to buy wheat for them. So in many ways, he really was great. But Herod the Great had 2 terrible character flaws that overshadowed all of this. He was insanely suspicious, and he was incredibly ruthless. So attracting too much attention in his court or among the people was a lethal mistake because Herod would suffer no rivals. Even within his own family, he was merciless. So in short order, he ordered the deaths of his wife, Miriam, her mother, Alexandra, his sons Alexander and Aristobulus, and then even a little later on, for good measure, he ordered the death of Antipater, who was his appointed heir. If you read his story, really, that's just the tip of the iceberg. In fact, Caesar Augustus, who knew him well, once said of Herod, "It's safer to be Herod's pig than to be Herod's son." Safer to be his pig than his son. Wow. So a talented leader, yes. A leader who inspired affection, probably not so much. Well, friends, Herod may be a bit of an extreme example, but his life illustrates something that I think we all need to be cautious about. We, too, can spend way too much time, way too much energy defending, protecting, whether it's our opinions or our politics, our emotions, our fortunes, our reputations, even our health. St. Teresa of Avila, I think it was, who said, "The devil will often try to frighten us about our health because he knows how it paralyzes us." So it's not that we should live recklessly or imprudently, but when we spend most of our waking moments on the lookout for threats or eager to draw lines or ready to close doors or primed to lash out or just afraid of the future, we warp ourselves. We turn our lives defensively inward and end up living in a very small spiritual space. And that doesn't make us free. That doesn't make us happy. That leaves us cramped, fearful, isolated. Interestingly, Herod himself ended up so isolated that at the moment of his own death, he ordered the deaths of 30 of Jerusalem's most prominent citizens. Why would he do that? Well, he did that because he was worried that otherwise there would be no tears at all at his passing. Friends, to live fully and freely is not to circle the wagons against every potential threat to our safe and comfortable little worlds. Some of the freest people ever were the martyrs, who knew in their heart of hearts that what they most desired was not more and more of what this world could offer, but instead the life that comes from God. And so they could lay down their lives freely, their actual physical lives, entrusting their well-being and their future and their reputation to God. That's how we want to live too, in the immense freedom of the divine will. Not afraid of the future, not afraid of losing what we have, not overly sensitive about being contradicted, not worried about making a mistake, not losing hope because we're becoming older or becoming sicker. God knows our needs way better than we do. That's why Jesus tells us to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things will be added to you as well. Bishop Fulton Sheen said it this way. He said, "Friends, you will never be happy if your happiness depends on getting solely what you want. Change your focus. Get a new center. Will what God wills, and your joy no man shall take from you." So that's what I'm sitting with in this season of resolutions. I thought maybe some of you might like to sit with me there as well. Losing weight and going to the gym and spending less time online, eating better, those are all good, all important. But in an ultimate sense, they don't really help us if the focus remains us. So change your focus. Get a new center. Look for the will of God in the events of your daily life and ask him to be present there. Let that be your guiding star. That's what I propose for the top of our resolution list this year, friends. Change your focus. Change your life.
Thank you again, Deacon Brett Edmonson, for your homily. I appreciate that. And folks, it is still Christmas, so keep those decorations up, or at least some of them, maybe, right? So Christmas, when does it end? It ends on the baptism of the Lord, which is next weekend after the Sunday celebrations. So I'm going to be, when I get to that place, I will be taking down all my lights in the front of the house and in the house and other decorations therein at that point. That's how I roll. Folks, if you have any comments or questions, just go to my website, fatherbill.org, and there you can find all kinds of information. You can email me, and I will do my best to respond back to you. In the meantime, may God bless you, and have a great week. Bye-bye.